discussions, details, dialogue, and decisions. Let's delve in and dissect the discourse between the developers and you, the denizens who demonstrated delight at the deliverables demonstrated within. We have another Tinto Talks to talk about. We have the developer responses, replies, and reactions to your comments. And we'll see what changes are going to be made to the game we're also very hyped about, or, as I said, delight at the deliverables demonstrated. And we'll see what's going on in this game. So, before I do, I think, personally, that lovely little bit of alliteration is worth a subscription. And if you're not subscribed, if you're one of those 53.5% of people who is not subscribed to the channel, then maybe you should, or maybe you could. I shouldn't say should, it's a bit aggressive. But this guy here, he wants you to subscribe. So maybe if you could do that, that would be kind of cool. Anyway, let's get in and see what is going on with first the Tinto Talk around the Schism. So, will non-Curia countries be able to choose which pope they support, and can the split be permanent? So right now, it only works for the Curia countries, but since it's a scripted system, they could make it so that any type of country in the IO is eligible with different weights, and furthermore on that, but a lot of non-Curia countries picked a side historically. For example, Scotland followed its French ally into supporting Avignon, and a lot of other nations picked a side as well. So it was very related to the 100 Years' War, with Scotland picking Avignon, with each side's allies supporting different candidates. So they'd love to have that, but it makes a better it's better to make it kind of simple and working than overcomplicating it too much from the start. The way I read this is maybe we're gonna see a Schism DLC, or more flavor related to the Schism as the updates and progression after launch comes in. Is there an option to permanently divide the Catholics, with one church following Rome and the other Avignon? It's a follow-on from the previous question. They aren't considering a permanent division of the Catholic Church because it would be the equivalent of the Great Schism, with two diverging Catholic religions, with several possible ramifications that would also greatly impact the situations and content for the Age of Reformation. And as they've already mentioned, they are right now mostly focusing on delivering the best possible historical content without derailing too much into the alt historical one. I'm fine with this. I don't think we need to have a permanent split from this schism here. We already have a permanent split in Christianity with, the Orthodox versus Christian versus Catholic, and then we're gonna get a second one later when Protestantism comes around. So I don't think this one here is super necessary. I'm perfectly happy that it's an event that happens and you solve it and then you move on. Is there anything you can do as a player to try and spawn the Reformation in your lands? Basically, if you build a university and you don't own Rome, you are more likely to have it spawn your lands, which seems reasonable and fair. And what do the weights look like, again, for having the Reformation spawn in you? Is Luther more likely to show up in especially wealthy bishoprics? After all, it was Albert of Brandenburg, the Elector of Mainz, who was the catalyst for Luther's protest. Albert funded his expensive outfits, patronage of the arts, and generous donations by extensive sales of indulgences. So, since they're looking for a somewhat historical outcome, the weights are per location, with regional weights. So it's more likely for the Reformation to appear in Germany than any other region. But again, the system is super flexible, so it can potentially be changed to be weighted on wealth or population, etc. In any case, the seed is random, so it can happen as in his own game, having it spawn in Italy, which is a negative regional modifier. Cool, good to know. Is it possible for a pope to be assassinated, because many were historically by many different methods? Some were stabbed, thrown out of a window, chucked in the Tibre, or worse, having an aneurysm from talking to JD. So I'd read this, and I'd read this, and I was like, yeah, I'll put this in the video. This part I wasn't expecting. That got me. Hang on, I'm gonna have to. Gonna have to. There you go. But also, yeah, the Black Death is a great character killer as well. But I assume, I don't think we know if there is an assassination system in the game related to obviously the espionage, which we also haven't really learned all that much about. But characters die, I'm assuming there will be events related to, like, the Pope's death. If he dies, then it may roll an event saying, oh, this is how he died. That, that could be a thing. I don't know. But moving on. After last week's DevDAO responses, which were quite negative, are there plans to make the Pope more involved in the appointment of cardinals and saints? Also, is there right now a maximum number of cardinals at each time? So they want to make tweaks to the content based on the feedback, as they usually have done since they started the Tinto talks, but they prefer to comment on the specific tweaks after the changes are made. Basically, if you've read it in a dev diary, it's already in the game, functioning as the devs are able to play it right now. Because they think it's the best way of improving the game with no unrealistic expectations. And yeah, I do think this is something that will change, right? Basically what is being talked about here is the fact that as a player, you can build a cardinal building, and that is how you have cardinals in your country, which is a little bit strange. And it probably should be that the Pope is the one that appoints cardinals. There was a lot of disagreement in the dev diary about this, and it seems like we may be getting some changes there, and I do hope that changes are made, because I do not prefer the system that they currently have. How is Zwingli a Lutheran preacher? I didn't know who Zwingli was, and I was told quite a lot in my comment section, so appreciate the people who let me know without thinking that I'm an idiot for not knowing. Appreciate that. The main philosopher behind Anabaptism. So there aren't only Lutheran preachers and reformers in the situation. More on that next week. We'll get that in a few days on Wednesday. But here we have Ulrich Zwingli. They have Michael Agricola. Obviously, different symbol meaning a different branch of Reformation. Calvin here as well, from Calvinist. I don't know who these two are. I mean, Agricola, that's a Roman name to me. It doesn't fit, I don't know what it is in this period, but Agricola was a Roman emperor, if I'm not mistaken. And also the duplicate portraits graphical bug has been solved as well. Could the Reformation be prevented? No, it won't be. They discussed it extensively, and no, they always want the Reformation to spawn in the game because they think it's a key historical element for the age of Reformation, and thus it grants a great deal of historical immersion that they want. It can be modded in very different ways, as the interplay of the 4 different situations among them, and with the different religions, which I am okay with as well. I am fine with the Reformation always spawning. We have the institution, the Age of Reformations, and if there's no Reformation, then the age system in the game mechanically just doesn't make sense. So I am perfectly happy with it being this way. I am one of these people. I'm not one of these people. How does the Council of Trent voting work? If any Catholic can propose a debate, is there anything in place to show that a vote is underway? Maybe like HRE instance, work in E4 where you get a notification and have a year to take a side. Otherwise, the AI could just run through the votes and the council ends before the player can blink. So it'll show up in the panel for the Council of Trent after being proposed. Hopefully there is a notification for this as well, not just, a panel. So you have the Purchase of Indulgences law here that was proposed, and you can start that debate. This does... Okay, so this is how it shows up. But that's starting the law, right? What about ones that are already going and you want to vote on? Maybe it's like this? And who am I playing as right now? Where is the ability to, vote here? I don't actually see anything here that I can be like, okay, click button, I'm here, So I don't know. Could hopefully get a little bit more information on that one. But either way, hopefully they have that sorted. And here, what do the icons mean? We can open up to see what the icons that he is talking about are. The hat. Hopefully he doesn't mean this one, because this is obviously the character's stats, the military stat. I don't know what that one means either. So Zwingli is a cabinet member in his country. That's what the hat means. A few more years into the game, there's an interesting one for Calvin. I guess a crown if he becomes... Oh, successor, so he is an heir. Maybe this crown means heir. And they have to correct Calvinist theocracies being bishoprics, but they're halfway there. Okay. This is obviously one of his traits as well. We're not sure what that one is yet. But yeah, I have no idea what this symbol means. So maybe that's gonna be mentioned at some point eventually. But it won't be in this video or this post, because we're moving on now to the responses to the Teutonic Order and Knights Hospitalier Devdar. So first off, is there any content around the crusade for Smyrna in the 1340s? Yes, there is. There is this right here. The widespread Turkish piracy, with the Beylik of Aydenids at its helm, has caused much dismay to the Christian shipping. Such a state of matters cannot stand. Christendom will not be humiliated by lowly Sunni pirates. To curb this misery, we could call a crusade on the Aydenids, end their treachery once and for all. So, 2 Smyrniote crusades took place between 1343 and 1351. During the First Crusade, the Christians managed to capture the Smyrniote capital and port, but failed to secure the Acropolis. To celebrate the successes, a mass was held in the city, which the Turks swept in and massacred the praying leadership. After that, Second Crusade was organized to help the struggling Christian side of the city. I didn't know that happened. That's crazy. Okay. The tooltip says the Teutons cannot convert, but then how do you handle the transition to Prussia? Is it by event? So, if you are losing the initial war to Poland, this is the historical option. The defeat of the Teutonic Order has marked the return of much of Pomerania back to our fold, but also the conquest of the territories of Prussia. Though decimated, the Teutonic Knights still stand and control many institutions in the area. As the territories in eastern Prussia might be hard to integrate, there have been proposals of forcing the existing elite of the order to secularize and swear fealty in front of King Casimir's Piast. With that scheme, the old territories of the Teutons would be divided into Royal Prussia, directly incorporated into the crown, and Ducal Prussia, held by the secularized Prussians. So after the 13 Years' War against the Teutonic Order in 1454 to 1466, Prussia was divided into Royal Prussia, directly held by the Kingdom of Poland, and the eastern provinces, which remained part of the order as a vassal, known as Ducal Prussia. In 1525, the Teutonic Order state was secularized by its Hochmeister Albert von Hohenzollern, becoming known from then on as the Duchy of Prussia. Very cool, and then this is what it will look like on the map if you get that sorted. Very nice. And then we have the Kingdom of Prussia here if you want to play as them. Ignore the kingdom rank, it's something to tweak, fair enough. But this is what they will be like. I wouldn't pay much attention to the population, because this is obviously a country that has been spawned in. This is not obviously there at the start of the game, so that's kind of irrelevant. But yeah, very cool. Very cool indeed. And then if you are winning as the Teutonic Order, you have an alt history path in order to form Prussia. You will require nobility land rights. You need to not have powerful dioceses. You need to not have military order government reform. You need to have auxilium et concilium. Clergy need to have very little estate power. Nobles need to have greater estate power, and you need to be at peace. Very cool. Brandenburg also has content directed to become Prussia, of course, but they'll talk about that in a future Tinto Flavor. I'm looking forward to the Brandenburg Tinto Flavor. I think everyone is. Brandenburg is one of the most popular countries to play as in EU4. I'm expecting the same to be true in EU5. But moving on, why is Livonia not called the Livonian Order? It's called the Order of Livonia, which I think is probably more historically accurate. So, cool. And also we have Grandmaster Eberhard von Monheim. Perfectly cool sounding name. Will you add mechanics that reflect the serious support the Teutonic Order had for wars and raids by Western Knights? Furthermore, up until the Council of Constance, there was a fierce PR battle between the Order, which accused Poland of supporting pagans, and Poland, which accused the Order of being interested only in plunder, not Christianization. The common belief of the Western Knights in the Order's cause was the basis for their involvement on its side. So they replicate that organically through the new mechanics that they presented by requesting sponsorship from other Catholic countries and by expanding your commanderies abroad as they increase your manpower and income and the military tradition. Fair enough. I'm glad the naval side of the Hospitaliers is represented. They were literally practicing Corsairs against the Ottoman Empire and the Barbary Corsairs. Will it be hard to end up playing with the Hospitaliers on Malta considering the starting date? So if they cease to exist and Malta is owned by a Catholic country, there will be an event allowing it to be recreated. If they end up owning Malta by their own means, there'll be some flavor events related to that as well. Very cool. The Order headquarters seems worthless considering its cost. So that being the building that... Actually, we can probably open the building up. If we go and find it real quick. I don't know if it's that one. It's not that one. Is it this one? Yes. So the cost of the building is 500 gold. And you're getting 20 manpower. You can recruit regiments for defense, right? This seems like a very, very expensive building for what you're getting out of it. But it is a starting building. So they all have it to begin with. Order headquarters. Yeah, they all start with this building, so it's not something that you're actually having to buy. Maybe if you're wanting to set up a new one, maybe that's when you would be having an issue with it. Do the Knights and Teutons also have buildings throughout the rest of Europe, especially the HRA, to represent the commanderies they operated to draw funding and manpower from? So yes, they do. The Knights have 31 commanderies, and the Teutons have 20. And if we have a look for the commandery here, so that's the amount of manpower you're getting from these commanderies, and that looks really small. But honestly, the amount of manpower that you're getting from, I think we've seen it. Let me have a look for it a second. Yeah, here we go. The sergeantry. You can build it in the capital of a monarchy, right? You're not, if you are a republic, you can't build this, right? You can only build it in the capital. I believe it's only towns and cities, and that's giving you 5 monthly manpower. I don't believe we know of any, in the early stage of the game, any other buildings that give manpower. So these guys are getting 5, whereas if we have a look at the commandery, 2 each. And the amount of them that they have, Teutons are getting 40 manpower at the start of the game. The Knights are getting 62. That's a lot more manpower than most countries in Europe. That's a lot. So it looks small, but that's in bloody EU4 terms, it's small. So yeah, very cool indeed. Alt history content seems to be fairly common with advances. Historically, the state of Teutonic Order ceased to exist well before the Age of Discovery starts, yet they have unique advances for later ages. So it's one of the few instances where they allow alt history, since it doesn't feel right if you keep playing as the Teutonic Order, but stop having any unique advances after the Age of Reformation. See, I have a different philosophy than the Paradox devs here. I am 100% down for alt historical content all over the game. As long as it is plausible alt history and not completely delulu alt history. And by completely delulu, let's go with Teutonic Order. The alt history content for becoming a holy horde is delusional. Like, it's crazy. That's the kind of alt history content I'm not interested in. But alt history content where, country died in real life, but country still exists and has what would have happened, the plausible nature of the alt history content, needs to be there. And I'm totally fine with that, and I encourage that, and I want to see more of that. That is something I really, really enjoy. And then our final comment to have a look at: can you re-establish Jerusalem as the Hospitaliers? Yes, you can, and that, I think, is going to be a very difficult campaign to have, considering the strength of the Mamluks. But I would love to see people try that when they get their hands on the game. But anyway, that's all I have for you today. I want to thank you all very much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed my delightful, delicious doldrum speak thing at the start of the video. I practiced. I wrote that. I don't have a new one to write just from memory. Anyway, I'm rambling. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you guys on Wednesday for another Tinto flavor. Not Tinto flavor, a Tinto talk. And we're going to keep with the religious theme. So I hope to see you then. Bye-bye. See you in the comments. Blah, blah, blah. Subscribe to the channel. Toodaloo.